How hard is the Tour de France? Is it truly the world's hardest race? Well, to find out, I'm going to take on one of the Tour de France's most iconic climb. Can I make the time cut on Alpe d'Huez? Ah! There's no one who is not going to suffer on this brutal climb. No one is immune to the pain. Alpe d'Huez was first included in the Tour back in 1952, and that stage was won by the great Fausto Coppi, who attacked with 6 kilometers to go. Interestingly, that Tour was also the first one to be televised. Now, since then, Alpe d'Huez has been this stadium of insane battles in cycling history. It's got the spectacle, all the cycling fans there, the 13 kilometers, the 21 switchbacks and the 8% gradient, which gives it the iconic status where legends of the sport are made, and it's the one stage that every cyclist wants to win. Now, in order to show you guys how tough the Tour de France really is, I've set myself the challenge of trying to finish the Alpe d'Huez stage, last year's Queen stage, within the time cut. Now, if you remember back in 2022, Tom Pidcock did a terrifyingly fast descent off the Col de la Croix de Fer and then attacked the breakaway compatriots on Alpe d'Huez and going on to win the stage. He did the Alpe d'Huez segment in 41 minutes and 53 seconds. Yes, an incredible feat. 2 minutes slower than our very own Twig, and you can see that over on GCN+. But the unsung hero for me was Fabio Jakobsen, the quick-step sprinter who squeezed into the time cut. He did it in 57 minutes and 1 second, meaning I've got to beat his time, Fabio's time, of 57 minutes. I've got to finish Alpe d'Huez in under an hour. Now, just put it into perspective, I haven't done 11 stages before this, and I haven't done the Col de la Croix de Fer or the Col de la Galibier, which is what the race did. So all I've got to do is Alpe d'Huez. But let me tell you, it's a brutal one. It's a tough one. Here goes nothing. Now, I don't have the luxury of the wolf pack, quick step wolf pack, to help me up. No, this is going to be a bit of a solo affair. It's me against the mountain. Me against either staying in the Tour or being kicked out. Here goes nothing. Lowest slopes of the infamous Alpe d'Huez climb. What lies ahead is 21 hairpins and corners, steep slopes averaging around 8%. Can I make it under the hour? I'll tell you what, this climb is all about pacing it. You can go out way too hard, way too early on these lower slopes, and there was nothing left for the finish. It's all about managing your effort, riding within yourself, and pacing it. And imagining you're on the world's greatest stage, the Tour de France, crowds lining the pavements. Now, I did read that on Strava, over 1,000 people a year take on this infamous climb. It's a beast, it's a bucket list climb for many. Allez, come on, buddy. Yeah. Look at that, just has something about it. I think that's the best thing about these iconic climbs, is anyone can test themselves on it. You don't have to be competitive with a rider. You can be competitive with the climb and conquer it. Now I'm coming up to 4K, 9K to go. I'm in a world of pain here, but my saving grace is that insane view. The higher you get, the more you're rewarded by the unbelievable scenery. I mean, it really does take your breath away. Well, that's just the climbing. Past corner 13. On Alpe d'Huez, they count down from 21 right at the bottom, all the way to the first right at the top, which sometimes helps with the effort. You're able to pace yourself that bit easier, and it's helping you mentally to get through what's an arduous climb. Getting right up into the clouds. You know you're eating up the mountain when the air gets thinner, but then again, it does get harder. I don't know how these riders at the Tour go up this so fast, but it's an absolute brute. Tour de France is in July, and it's normally sweltering hot when the riders hit Alpe d'Huez, and that's something you don't take into account until you're riding in it. 25, 26, 27 degrees, the sun beating down on your neck, the sweat pouring off your brow. It makes it a whole lot harder. And that's why the times they put up is just unimaginable. Now this is my favorite corner, corner 7, Dutch corner. This takes me back 3-4 years ago, covered in orange, shouting at the Tour de France. This is when the riders are going to feel a massive sense of energy. The crowd, the atmosphere is going to push them on no end. Listen to the crowd. Come on! I don't quite have the Dutch fans, but they're with me in spirit. 9 kilometers completed, corner 7, Dutch corner ridden through. Just 4 kilometers to go. It eases off a little bit on the gradient, but nevertheless, it still really bites you, especially having done 8-9 kilometers of what is a hard alpine climb. This is when the riders are really gonna have to turn on their poker faces, act like they're not suffering, when everyone that knows cycling, there's no one who is not gonna suffer on this brutal climb. Just coming into corner 4, 10K done, 3K to go. Now I can only imagine what young Tom Pidcock was feeling. In 2022, he was solo away on the Queen stage, flying up it at the speed of light, crowds clapping and cheering, and knowing you've got 3K to cover and you're gonna win one of the greatest stages in Tour de France history upon the great and iconic Alpe d'Huez climb. I mean, it gets me going. I hope it gets you going, because this is what's sending me up this climb. Whether I'm going to beat Fabio Jakobsen's time is yet to be determined, but I would have conquered one of the most iconic climbs, and I'm happy about that. It's insane. There it is, Giuseppe, corner number 1, the last corner. This is where it's got to be lit up. This is when you're going to be on your knees, the last couple hundred meters. This is when you hit Alpe town. This is probably when it's going to be one of the loudest, a cacophony of sound just ricocheting across the buildings. And you can imagine all the balconies just covered in cycling fans. So there was me thinking it's all over with 1 quarter to go, but I've just passed 1 kilometre. This is where it flattens off slightly. You're done with the hairpins. If you're in a pack, this is where you're going to want to start playing the game. Wait for the sprint, because it's coming up quick. The camera, helicopter above, and that's you. You're done. You've made it to the top of Alpe. You nearly died on the way up, but the satisfaction of breathing the mountain air, getting into the high altitudes and covering 13 kilometers of brutal gradient, pat yourself on the back. And now I think it's about time we have a look to see if I've beaten Fabio Jakobsen, to see if I would have made it in the Tour de France, albeit just a tiny, 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 tiny bit of it. Right, let's take 2. Right, I've got my breath back and I am sitting just in front of the sign of Alpe d'Huez. I've conquered it. Now you want to know what time I did. You want to know if I stayed in the 2022 Tour de France or if I got the boot, if I got disqualified, if I made it out of the time cut. And for those of you who are thinking that I was going to be within the hour, well, I'm sorry, but you were wrong. I did it in a 1 hour and 6 minutes. I averaged 265 watts with an average speed of 13 kilometers per hour, 1 kilometer slower than Fabio Jakobsen, which basically tells me a few things. It shows you how tough the Tour de France really is. Now, I'm no slouch. I really don't think I'm that bad at climbing, especially now. I'm not as fit as I used to be, but nevertheless, I'm not hanging around and I still would have got disqualified, which makes me think how hard the guys in the Gruppetto have to dig, how hard they have to go just to make it through the Pyrenees, through the Alps, make the time cuts to be able to sprint on the flat stages. Now, if you enjoyed this video, if you enjoyed watching me suffer, and if you have got, well, a pat on the back for the sprinters who are suffering in the mountains, make sure you hit that thumbs up button. And also, let me know in the comment section below if Alpe d'Huez is something you would like to conquer, if it's a time you would like to do, or if you've done it, what time have you done? Have you beaten my time of 1 hour and 6 minutes? I'm sure some of you have. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you saw me suffer enough, because I surely did. And I'll see you in the next video.